Hello and welcome back to the Preston Kelly Show. This is episode 8. I appreciate you coming back and watching today's show. If you are new, consider subscribing and following, and make sure you turn on the notifications bell so that you never miss a podcast/show upload. But today we are going to be covering MLB playoff results and where we stand today in the MLB playoffs, as well as a NFL Week 6 review, all the games and everything that has happened over this past weekend in the NFL, as well as we're going to be reviewing a post I made tier ranking the MVPs, in my opinion, through the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. And then to wrap it all up, we're going to be talking about the preview to NFL Week 7 here coming up tonight. But to start out, we're going to start out by talking a little bit of baseball. We are officially in the championship series phase. The ALCS right now is a battle between the Mariners and the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, of course, being the top seed, and the Mariners right now being the number 2 seed. The Mariners have a 2-0 lead over the Blue Jays as they play Game 3 tonight. As of recording this podcast, you will have seen Game 3 last night. If you're watching this the day of the upload, and then Game 4 will be tonight if you're watching the podcast, obviously the day that it came out. But Game 3 will be played tonight. No Game 3 for the NLCS tonight, which is being played between the Dodgers and the Brewers. The Brewers, of course, had the best record in baseball, and the Dodgers knocked off the number 2 seed, the Phillies, to get here to the NLCS. And the Dodgers have a 2-0 lead against the Brewers right now, as they are currently traveling back to play Game 3 in LA tonight. If you're watching this the day of the release of the podcast. But this so far, if we go back and talk about my playoff predictions, sure, they are not 100% right at all, but the teams that I have making it all the way are still in it, and they both have a 2-0 lead in the series so far. Obviously, the Dodgers look completely dominant over the Phillies to get here to the NLCS, and it's been pretty much 2 very tough battles for the Dodgers, but their pitching has been, specifically their starting pitching, has been absolutely terrific so far this postseason. Obviously, Blake Snell had a great start, and then I want to say he went all 9 against the Brewers last night to secure the second series win of the series. And then if you go look at the ALCS, the bats have been absolutely alive for the Mariners, as they have pretty much been the whole playoffs. There was a big talking point with how that series ended with the Mariners and Detroit, the last game going in 15 innings. Would they be able to have the pitching to support it? And right now the starters have done decent. Brian Wu obviously didn't have the best start the other day in the ALCS. However, they have done enough offensive-wise to get them a 2-0 lead. In fact, they've done more than enough. The bats have absolutely come alive, and they will be playing Game 3 tonight in Seattle, and as well as the next couple games, the next 3 games to be exact, before, if necessary, playing Games 6 and 7 back in Toronto. Same thing for the Dodgers. Games 3, 4, and 5 will be played in LA, and because the Brewers are the higher seed, they get the last 2 games, if necessary, in Milwaukee. As it stands right now, looks like both the Mariners and the Dodgers, they are both 2 wins away from making their respective World Series appearances. Obviously, the Dodgers are the defending World Series champions after beating the Yankees in last year's World Series, and the Mariners haven't been this far in the postseason, like we have said, in 21 years, I believe it's been. Oh, no, excuse me, it hasn't been 21 years. That's not right. 2001, I believe, was the last time that they even made it this far. In fact, they played in the World Series, but they lost to the Yankees. So they are looking to get back to the World Series. This team is very hungry, and all these stars that are on the Mariners team, they want to do some damage, and they have done just that so far, as we've seen in the playoffs. I'm a little bit guilty. I haven't watched a lot of playoff baseball here recently, as I would like to. Been watching a lot of football lately, but doing my best to keep up with it. Obviously, the big baseball fan that I am. I already mentioned, obviously, my team's not in the running, but I'm hoping the Mariners are able to pull it off. As you guys know, my prediction is the Mariners beating the Dodgers in the World Series. That's the one predictions I made before the playoffs even started when the bracket first came out. And right now it's not looking too bad. So hopefully, uh, you know, for my luck, that's able to happen. But I really love the teams that are still left, except for the Dodgers. I would like to see somebody new win the World Series. But I'm not going to be one of these people that absolutely just hate on the Dodgers because they win. If you're a good baseball team and you're able to win, like that's just, good for you. I mean, we've seen Houston do it last few years. The Dodgers have obviously done that forever. The Yankees have done that forever. Um, I do think it is a little bit crazy that they're just able to spend as much money as they want to just because they're the Dodgers and they have so much money, as well as these other teams like the Yankees and these other really popular teams that make a whole lot of money. But the Dodgers definitely take the cake on teams that just it seems like they are able to spend the most money. And if I'm being completely honest, this is a random kind of just maybe a hot take, you would say, but random sidebar. I do think we're trending towards a salary cap being added in baseball, with just the ability and a lot of these teams losing the money that they're losing and spending the amount of money that they're spending. But that obviously is discussion for later. Right now, we're focused on the playoffs. And we could very well have our World Series matchup but before the weekend's even over with. But I do not think either of these teams, the Blue Jays or the Mariners, will go down without a fight. I totally expect these teams to not give up whatsoever and to do whatever they can to scrap and claw and get back in the series, get a couple wins under their belt, and try and tie it up and give a good shot at winning this thing. Because all these teams are hungry. And I would really love to see some good series being made out of this, except for some just 4-0 sweeps. So I do think that there are some good games still left ahead. I will be watching tonight for sure the Mariners and the Blue Jays. And then we'll see tomorrow what the Dodgers and Brewers are able to do in LA. And depending on the result of tonight, the Mariners win, they will have their shot at clinching the World Series tomorrow night, but that is all up to them if they win tonight and tomorrow. And they have the chance to win this whole ALCS and make the World Series in front of their home crowd. So I'm sure that is playing a role, as well as the Dodgers, who also, of course, have a chance at clinching in front of a home crowd. So I'm sure for these teams with 2-0 leads now playing in their home ballparks, that is for sure giving them a little bit of a boost, trying to get this thing in locks and win in front of their home crowds. But we will see where that goes. But for now, let's dive into some football. Let's review week 6. It was definitely a wild week 6. We had a lot of different results, a lot of shocking results, actually, that have come from this past NFL week. We'll start with arguably the most shocking thing that happened a week ago, last Thursday. The Giants whooped the Eagles 34-17. Of course, if you remember, if you follow me on TikTok, I made a TikTok that exact same night. The Giants got whooped by the Eagles, and that was the same night that the Phillies lost the way that they did against the Dodgers. If you don't know what I'm talking about, bases were loaded for the Dodgers in extra innings, and the Phillies had 2 outs, and they could have easily gotten out of the inning. There was a weakly hit ground ball hit to the pitcher. He bobbled it, and obviously there was a bunch of obviously panic and adrenaline in the moment, considering you're playing in an elimination game for the Phillies, and trying to make a comeback and make the NLCS and make a deep playoff run. Pitcher bobbles it, and his first instinct is to go home because home is 5 feet from him. And sure enough, he launches a laser that honestly was way too hard and way too difficult, and something that was really unnecessary. Overthrew the catcher. Dodgers walk it off and make the NLCS, and not even 30 minutes later, the Eagles, I mean, they were already getting killed, but they lost to the Giants on Thursday Night Football. And this leads me to talk about, yes, the Eagles have two straight losses, obviously losing to the Broncos and now to the Giants. I don't know off the top of my head who they played this weekend, if they do play, so forgive me. But I don't even want to really talk about the Eagles, if I'm being honest. I want to talk about the two guys that are just, I feel like are at the front of a lot of football fans' minds when you think about the New York Giants, and that is the two guys that have absolutely turned this team around, and that's Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo. Man, it is crazy to see. We'll talk about Jackson Dart here in a second, but Cam Scatabo, I believe, was a fourth round pick in the NFL draft, and he is playing like one of the best running backs in the NFL. Obviously, the big meme going around with him, the way that he acts and yells and everything, the goofy kind of personality that he has, and he brings it out to the football field. And he is one of the toughest players that play in the NFL right now. It doesn't matter who you are, he will run over you. That is for sure. I've seen it firsthand when we were playing against the Giants week one. There was a play where he absolutely just ran over Frankie Louvu, and like that, from that moment on, I was like, okay, this guy is like legit. And sure enough, his opportunities and the weight that he's been carrying for this team and in this offense have just grew more and more as time has gone on. And now they turned to Jackson Dart a couple weeks ago to take over as the starting quarterback for this team after Russell Wilson was just not cutting it for the Giants. And you see the ability that Jackson Dart has and this ability that we saw during the preseason, yes. And we are all thinking, man, the Giants just need to start Jackson Dart right away. But no, they ended up going Russell Wilson, which, I think in most cases is probably the correct route to go, to choose the vet over the rookie, give the rookie some time to learn. But sure enough, Jackson Dart has not slowed down for a second since he's been given the chance to start for the football team, the New York Giants. They obviously they won the first start that he had. They beat the Chargers barely by 3, and then had a sloppy game against the Saints that they lost in his second start. And now they come out last week and they are firing on all cylinders. The defensive line, specifically, just the defense in general, had already been playing pretty well. I'd say more specifically, like I just said, the defensive line, it's arguably the best defensive line in football. They were doing their part. We were just waiting for things to click on offense. And sure enough, they found their groove. They have now found what seemingly a lot of people now think their franchise guy and Jackson Dart, and a franchise running back in Cam Scatabo. And I can only imagine what this team would look like if Malik Neighbors was healthy and he did not tear his ACL like he did. I mean, I'm a Commanders fan, and which we will talk about them here in just a little bit. But man, this team is really scary, the Giants. And I'm glad that we already beat them once. Not we're not playing them right now the way that this team's playing right now. Obviously, we'll have to play them again down the road, and we'll see how long these guys can keep it up, Jackson and Cam Scatabo. But the Giants are a really fun team to watch right now. And sure enough, I was telling people that this team was a sleeper team. There were 2 teams that I gave kind of like the sleeper team name to, and that one of them was the Giants, the other team being the Panthers, who we can talk about them for just a second. Just beat the Cowboys, and the Panthers now have a winning record for the first time since, I believe, 2021, I want to say, and they are playing great football right now, and it's really fun to watch the Panthers play football right now. But for the Giants, obviously they're in a harder division than the Panthers are, in my opinion, which, well, even then, now that I say that, with how the Falcons and Buccaneers are playing right now, I'm not sure. That division is pretty tough too. But these 2 teams now, who I've given sleeper names to, they started out slow, and it seems like they're figuring some stuff out now. And especially the Giants, who get a absolutely massive win over the defending Super Bowl champions, as the Giants now move to 2-4, and the Eagles fall to 4-2. Let's move on to the Sunday Night Football game that we just saw this past weekend between the Lions and the Chiefs. The Chiefs were firing on all cylinders. They beat the Lions 30-17. We were watching this game, and this was not looking like the Detroit Lions team that we had come to know in the last few years. The team that they had become the last few weeks, seeming like they had figured things out. 4 straight wins after taking a week 1 loss to the Green Bay Packers, and then they come out to the Chiefs, and it just wasn't working. And I think a lot of credit can be given to the Chiefs as to they're playing Chiefs football again, and the Lions just weren't playing Lions football. But for the Chiefs, they've looked pretty good last couple weeks. Obviously, destroying the Ravens, falling to the Jaguars in a very, very close and very entertaining game, and then coming out and absolutely whooping the Lions in the way that they did. And, I've always said I'll never doubt the Chiefs until they give me a reason to doubt them, and that has continued on this whole time. I still think, obviously, Patrick Mahomes, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not going to Chris Collinsworth and glaze him as much as he seemingly has, which, by the way, I have a bone to pick with Chris Collinsworth. I'm talking about the little run that Mahomes had for like 8-9 yards that, he took on multiple guys and everything, and talk about what other quarterback does that. And, you've probably seen the meme of it, honestly, if you do follow meme pages on social media. But Baker Mayfield did the same exact thing, like 10 times better, like 3 hours earlier in the day. And his was like, okay, let's break a stack, break like 2 tackles, run like 15 yards and get a first down on like 3rd and long, which we'll talk about more about Baker Mayfield here in just a little bit, if you know what I'm talking about. But we're on the Chiefs right now. But, not taking anything away from the Chiefs, obviously. They just played great on Sunday Night Football, and they get back on track. And they're looking to still play. They're still going to play competitive football. And like I said, you should never doubt the Chiefs until they give you a reason to doubt. They've given you a couple reasons, but we've seen them start slow before and then just pick things up. And that's where I think that they're going right now. They're getting Rashee Rice back this week. His suspension just got over with. You got Worthy back a couple weeks ago. He's been playing pretty good football. You got Hollywood Brown still, Pacheco, get him ramped up maybe a little bit. You still got the veteran and Travis Kelce, and the defense is going to continue to play good defensive football. So obviously the Chiefs are still a force to be reckoned with here in the NFL, and they are not by no means no longer as good as they the fact of just ruling them out completely of being not as good as they once were. I think we can totally rule that out. They are still 100% a dangerous team when it comes to playing them. But that's enough on that game. Now we'll move to this a couple of days ago, Monday Night Football. Frustrating for me as a Washington fan. We'll wait to talk about their game. I first want to talk about the Bills and the Falcons game just a little bit. Before anything, I didn't get to see a whole lot of this game. I was mainly watching the Commanders game, which I would obviously tune back and I'd get these alerts and everything about Bijan and Drake London. They were absolutely torching the Bills. The Bills just did not play like the Bills normally do, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact I've mentioned this a while ago. The fact of like Josh Allen just needs another playmaker. I think the Bills offense really just relies on Josh Allen to do Josh Allen type things and just run over everybody and to create wild and amazing throws and plays. And obviously when you face a team now that's kind of figured that out and they put a stop to that, it's just like, oh, this offense all of a sudden just isn't firing on cylinders like it's used to, like we're used to seeing. That's when why I put it out there, like they need another playmaker. They need themselves another Stephon Diggs. They played so well with Stephon Diggs because they had their playmaker. If you could just pair another receiver out there with Josh and James Cook, who's played phenomenal football, I think that this Buffalo team, it's still dangerous right now. They're still one of the best teams in the AFC, but they just, the feeling to me is that they need another playmaker on offense because the defense is going to do fine, but they just need another playmaker on offense for this team to really be, firing on all cylinders the way that we expect them to week in and week out. But the Falcons, great win for them. Coming off the bye week, they had 3 straight wins. With winning this game, they now have 3 straight wins. Won this game, had a bye week the week before, week 5, and then week 4, they beat my team, the Commanders, and then I want to say it's Chicago, excuse me, who's had 3 series. I'm thinking of Chicago. But the Falcons, now, that's their 3rd win under their belt. They're 3-2. Getting that win, it was against Minnesota in week 2. A great win for them. They're playing great football here as of late. I think that loss to the Panthers that they had 30-0 really woke them up a little bit. And now we're looking at Bijan had himself a 19 carries for 170 yards and a touchdown. That big 81-yard touchdown that he had. Drake London looked phenomenal. He had 10 catches for 158 yards and a touchdown. And even Michael Penix threw for 250 yards. And that offense, it was just playing absolutely wonderful on Monday night, and that defense was holding Buffalo in check. So if they can continue to play like this, obviously the Buccaneers are have the top spot right now when it comes to that division. But that's just been the conversation that we've been having here last couple of years, is who's going to end up being the team to be, a competitive team towards Buccaneer for the Buccaneers in that division. And now the Panthers and the Falcons are playing good football as of late. Buccaneers obviously still playing great football. So who knows? This division might be a fun little, division to watch when it all comes down to, who makes it and who doesn't, and who wins the division and who doesn't, because it's still very early in the season, a lot of football left to be played. But I am very excited to see, the direction that this division is heading. And, there can be a lot of fun to be watching how this division ends up playing out. Now I'll talk about the Commanders game. This is going to be frustrating for me to talk about. We should have absolutely won that game, 100%. I think you ask anybody that saw that game, the Commanders should have won, but they just continue to make mistake and mistake. And I'm never going to be the one to make excuses for a lackluster show on offense. We had 3 turnovers on offense with 2 fumbles and an interception. Jaden Daniels, you can look at it. Yes, he did have 3 touchdown passes and everything, but he really didn't play Jaden Daniels type football, in my opinion. To start out, it was sloppy, and to end, it was sloppy. Kind of in the middle was where we really got hot for the kind of stretches that we had with some of the big plays that we had. And the defense, it just seemed like Chicago, we were catching breaks in the fact that Chicago would make their mistakes as they would make a great drive all the way down to the other side of the field, and it would stall out. And the reason why I say we should have won it is because if we continue with that, we don't turn the ball over, we whip them. But realistically, I think there is an argument to be made, like, yes, Chicago won it, but you can make the argument like they should have whooped them because of how far they drove down the field. It also seemed like the whole night, my uncle texted me, who's another Washington fan. He texted me, or texted a group chat that I'm in, football group chat, and was like, are we running prevent defense? I mean, you look at the defense, and it's like, yeah, that's why they're able to create these big plays on short plays, is because everybody's preventing the big plays, and it's letting these smaller plays, like these check down throws, end up being, crazy amount of yards. I think you can make a perfect example for the DeAndre Swift touchdown, which was a little check down to Caleb Williams, checks it down to DeAndre Swift, and he just breaks one tackle, which it should not. And we absolutely should have had a tackle right there. Lattimore kind of gave up, just was expecting the other guy to tackle him. I can't think of off the top of my head who it was trying to tackle Swift, but Swift breaks the tackle and runs for a 60-yard touchdown. It's just like, what are we doing? And that's just always been the tale the last couple of years, is Washington's defense and stuff. We obviously got bailed out a lot just last year with how good the offense was last year. This year, this team has absolutely been battling with injuries. Obviously, we were without Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, who just went on IR today, as well as Sam Cosmi, one of the best guards in football. It's looking like we hopefully will get Terry back this week. I know DQ said that Terry's going to be practicing all week, and hopefully Cosmi's also able to go Sunday as well. The Commanders play the Cowboys at 4:00 on Sunday, 4:00 Eastern time, I should say, for those who watch all over the place. And this is we really need the win on Sunday. Dallas not playing the best football here recently, losing to the Panthers this past week. In that fashion, they've been without CeeDee Lamb. It looks like that they might get him back on Sunday, but this is definitely, if you're a Commanders fan or football fan in general, I'm looking at this game, Commanders versus the Cowboys. I think that this is must win for the Commanders. Now let's talk about Chicago. They just, from the first snap to the last snap, I could just tell how much more heart that they were playing with in this game and how badly they wanted this game. And obviously, I think that all attests to last year, the way that game ended last year with the Commanders walking it off on the Hail Mary. For Caleb, especially, I think that he was just trying to prove something. And, this isn't even bias. Jane Daniels is the better football player. I'm sorry, but Caleb Williams is still great. And that team is a lot better now than it was before in Ben Johnson's hands. And now you see the way that they're able to play football offensively. And they've been playing great here recently. I just mentioned it before, 3 straight wins for the Bears with Dallas. They squeaked one out against the Raiders a couple weeks ago, and then getting the squeaking out again the win against Washington. Washington had this game won. They fumbled the football on near the 50 with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Chicago just ran out the clock and kicked a chip shot field goal. It was rainy conditions all Monday night during that game, and again, I'm not going to be the one to make excuses, but it definitely looked like on that fumble, it wasn't a clean handoff whatsoever. Jaden was the main one that caused that football. Um, you know, and like I said, I'm not going to make excuses for it. It's a tough loss. It stings a whole heck of a lot. I'm hoping that we can just get back on track here Sunday against the Cowboys, like I was just saying. And for Chicago, good for them. Let's see what they can do as the season rolls on, playing in that tough division that they play in. But yeah, I would be lying if I still have it. It made me even more frustrated now talking about it and thinking about it. Just knowing that we should have won that game, but a lot of football left to play, and hopefully our guys get healthy, and when they come back, we can continue to play great football and make a deep run like I know that this team's capable of doing. But that's enough reviewing. Before we look forward to previewing week 7, I want to take a second and talk about the post, the MVP tier rankings post that I made. You may have saw this. I posted it a couple of days ago on my Instagram and my TikTok. If you haven't followed those, links will be in the description. Please, please, please go support those social media pages. You get a lot of content like this that I'm about to talk about, as well as on stories and stuff. I love to make interactive things like game picks, hot takes, all these different things that I love to talk to you guys about. So please go follow the other channels. That's a little plug there for that. But let's talk about the tier list that I have. I ranked top 5. And this is all through week 6, and this is again something maybe that I can create every other week, every few weeks. We'll switch it up. We'll see what sticks and what doesn't. But we're gonna go ahead and go over it real fast. And if I want you guys to tell me what you think, as in maybe who you have in you guys' top 5 list for MVP. And I can even go over a couple guys that I know I saw for sure that that are right on the cusp of making we're right on the cusp of making the list, but did not make it. First, I want to clarify the fact that it just does seem like that MVP is a quarterback award. So you're always going to have a majority of quarterbacks on here. I think that's the difference. There should be maybe like there should be MVP, and then there should just be like a best player award. I think you get that mainly with the offensive and defensive player of the years, because you always typically see the MVP is not the same as the offensive player of the year, or even in most cases, defensive, or even in some cases, defensive player of the year. So MVP is more of a QB award, but for those of you that saw the post, I don't have all QBs in this list. I have one running back in this list that we'll get to here in a second. But number 5 we'll start off with is a quarterback, and this is I put Matthew Stafford. I think maybe this is one that maybe some people actually there's 2 I think maybe some people scratch their head, but the Rams are playing great football. I think I think a lot to attest to that is maybe both Matthew Stafford, and I think a lot of attention will go to Puka Nacua, who's also been playing great football. He just got hurt on Sunday. I'm not sure what his status is for the Rams, but that will obviously be a big blow for them if he's not able to go. But Matthew Stafford, a lot of people, I made the prediction, like on the very first episode. I'm like, Rams are going to play great football if Matthew Stafford's at quarterback, because obviously he was dealing with the back injury at the time, and everybody was like, "Oh man, he's not going to play great football at all. Like this injury is going to prevent him from being anything." Yeah, okay. He comes into the season and he's just fine. The Rams are playing great football. They've had a couple of losses. Okay, that team is still great. They squeak one out against Baltimore, who is still hurting. Baltimore's going on the bye week, and now the Rams look to take this win and keep on trucking on as they are. I feel like that this is still their division to win, even though the 49ers are playing great football here recently and have been banged up. But Matthew Stafford, I think, is a lot. It gets a lot of credit for that. It just seems like the older that he gets, the better that he plays. He's just continuing to play great football and has that team really in a great position, looking forward and moving forward. And we'll see if he's able to keep it up as the season rolls on. But number 4, I put Drake May. Man, Drake May is absolutely balling for the Patriots. The Patriots are 4-2. It's their best start since 2019, back when Tom Brady was still the quarterback for the Patriots and Bill Belichick was still the head coach for the Patriots. Man, Drake May is looking like an absolute beast. He's looking like the franchise quarterback that I knew he had it in him. Watching him at Carolina play for the Tar Heels for the few seasons that I did. You've paired him up with Stephon Diggs. Diggs had his bright spots, but Drake is just passing the football around everywhere. You got Demario Douglas having great games, and you've got Kayshon Boutte playing absolutely amazing. This team is very fun to watch, and this team's actually starting to win games and be productive like we expected them to be now with Mike Vrabel as the head coach. And Drake May gets a lot of credit for that just because the offense is now starting to play absolutely great football. It started out a little bit, wobbly, but they have locked in here the last couple of weeks. They got a great win against the Saints this past week. Got an amazing win against Buffalo on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and now you see where they're at, playing at 4-2 and looking to make their first place in the division right now. As a matter of fact, you look at Buffalo taking the loss to the Falcons on Monday night. Like, all right, let's see what the Patriots can do with this thing. Now that they're in first place, already beaten Buffalo once. Dolphins and Jets are not good. Maybe they can be a little bit competitive, and playoffs are for sure in the vision for the New England Patriots, and that's why I have Drake May at number 4. But number 3, this is where I put my running back. This is where I have Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor has looked absolutely amazing for the Colts. I think you can give a lot of people credit for the Colts' hot start at 5-1, but I think you have to give a lot of credit to Jonathan Taylor, who's played like one of the best, if not the best, running backs in football. I'll go ahead and talk about Bijan too while we're here. Bijan was one of the players that I had talked about and that a lot of people said that they would have put in their top 5, and I 100% get those, especially after the game on Monday Night Football. For sure he has absolutely balled out. Bijan has, but Jonathan Taylor has that team at 5-1 right now. I think in the aspect of Bijan, I think we all kind of expected that Falcons team to be at the point that they are at right now, but nobody expected the Colts to be this good. And Jonathan Taylor, who obviously had a great year a couple years ago, kind of fell off just a little bit, had a great year last year, coming off this year, and now has exploded from out of nowhere into playing like the best running back in football. And it's great to see. Daniel Jones obviously stepping up in that offense. Tyler Warren, the rookie tight end, Michael Pittman. A lot of those guys on offense have been playing great, but I think you just have to give the majority of the credit to Jonathan Taylor because he has been absolutely balling for the Indianapolis Colts. Number 2, I think this is another one that made people scratch their heads, but just the way that he's been playing, the way that the offense has been playing. That's the key thing, is that the way that he's playing the offense. The record doesn't mean anything. But Dak Prescott has been playing amazing football. And this was one of the things that I had mentioned talking when I believe it would have been my first video, my first show whenever I made the tier list and talked about that the fact that the Cowboys offense is going to be amazing. The defense is going to be what holds them back. And sure enough, that's exactly what it's been. You look at the offense, and even when they're without CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens is playing like a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Jake Ferguson is playing like the best tight end in football. Javonte Williams was hot for a little bit, but then he kind of cooled off a little bit, and Dak Prescott is absolutely balling out. Brian Schottenheimer has been the offensive guy here for a couple of years. When the Cowboys were really, really good a couple of seasons ago, he was the main guy for the offense, calling the offense. And then they've been banged up last year, obviously didn't make the playoffs. And then they're back this year. They're 2-3-1, I want to say that their record is right now. The Cowboys, but even then, records don't mean anything for me right now when it comes to listing MVPs, because the simple fact is Dak Prescott is absolutely balling right now in the offense. And whenever CD Lamb comes back, the offense is just going to continue to get better and better. And I'm, not excited to see that as a Washington fan, but I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. And now we have to face Dak Prescott here on Sunday. Washington does, and we'll see what we're able to do. Obviously, a lot of former Cowboys coaches and players on our team. Been a rivalry for a little while. We're going to Dallas to play this game, so we'll see. We'll see what this team's able to do on both sides. But right now, Dak Prescott's my number 2 guy. And number 1, I mean, I feel like everybody knows who number 1 is right now. I mean, you'd be an idiot to say that Baker Mayfield is not the MVP right now. Baker Mayfield is playing. I mean, look, I knew he was going to play good. I think a lot of people knew that Baker was going to play good and that Tampa Bay was going to be a good team. The fact of like they have performed well the past couple of years. But I just did not think that it was going to be this good. They're 5-1. And they have played absolutely amazing these games that they have won. The one loss that they had to who'd they lose to? It's blanking from me. I think it was Philly. Yeah, it was Philly. But I mean, this team's playing like the best team in football right now. I've seen them being ranked number 1 in a lot of people's top 10 teams. I don't know where I'd have them right now. They'd be 1 or 2 for sure. But I think 95% of that credit has to go to Baker Mayfield, because the plays that he's making, as I mentioned before, the rush that he had, like, I think is the perfect example of why Baker Mayfield is the MVP right now. You have him breaking sacks, breaking tackles, fighting for every single first down that he can possibly get. And then you look at this team who's banged up. Chris Godwin misses the first chunk of the season. Mike Evans gets hurt and's been out the last couple weeks with a hamstring injury. Emeka Egbuka steps up and plays like one of the best wide receivers in football as a rookie, and he goes down. And then all of a sudden, Baker's still throwing the touchdowns to Tez Johnson, who thinks MVP chants are being shouted for him. No, they're being shouted for Baker Mayfield, because that's what he's doing. This team's been, even Bucky Irvin, who's been out the last couple of weeks. Rashad White steps up, plays great, but that's all. And they're just playing with so much confidence because their guy, Baker Mayfield, is at quarterback, and he plays with so much confidence and gives this team so much life and inspires these players to play just as good as they're playing right now. And I fully expect this thing to continue. And if this team continues just like that, Baker Mayfield is 100% going to be your NFL MVP. I'm absolutely amazed right now watching Baker Mayfield play. He is by far, if it wasn't for Jane Daniels being the quarterback for the Commanders, Baker Mayfield is my favorite quarterback to watch right now playing in the NFL. And, it's so fun to watch Baker Mayfield play, and I can't say enough good things about him. I don't want to glaze him a little bit, but the reason why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 5-1 is 100% because of Baker Mayfield. And I fully expect this thing to continue, and the Buccaneers are a dangerous team to play right now in the NFL. But that was my MVP tier rankings. Let me know who you would have in your top 5. Leave your top 5 in the comments below. And, I would love to see what everybody's thinking as of who's playing the best football right now in the NFL. But in the show today with a little Week 7 preview with predictions, we got a game tonight when you're watching the upload of this podcast between the Steelers at the Bengals. We'll start with that game. The Steelers coming off of a win against Cleveland, a scrappy win against Cleveland. The scoreboard honestly probably doesn't show as close as it was. Both the Steelers weren't playing their best football. Cleveland obviously just struggling right now. Dylan Gabriel, the new quarterback for them, after trading Joe Flacco to the Bengals, ironically. And then speaking of the Bengals, they took the loss to the Packers. They made a little bit of a late heroic comeback with Joe, and then now you got Joe Flacco throwing the football for them. Um, I think I'll give them that week against Green Bay, just the fact of like um Joe Flacco is still obviously probably getting used to this new system, this new Cincinnati system. And now I think that this offense is just going to perform much better. The fact that you have the two of the best receivers in the NFL, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, the question is just going to be that defense. And for that reason, I'm going the Steelers. I'm going the safe route. Part of me really, really wanted to go with the Bengals because I do think that this team will get hot at some point, offensively wise. I mean, I think they just have to. But Trey Hendrickson obviously got hurt the last game against Green Bay. Will he play this week? I'm not sure. He's questionable right now. I make sure to check that before I made my prediction. But either way, I'm just going to go with the safe bet, the Steelers. I think this is going to be a really scrappy game, and I think it could possibly come down to the last play of the game. Maybe a game-winning kick by Chris Boswell for the Steelers. But I'm just going to take the safe bet. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers just mainly because of that defense. And if the offense can get hot too during this game, if Rodgers can find DK a lot more, if Jaylen Warren can start toting the football a little bit more, the Steelers are still a dangerous team. Any team that's coached by Mike Vrabel seemingly seems to be a dangerous team. So I'm going to take the Steelers, who will move to 5-1 if they win this game. But yeah, safe bet with the Steelers. Sunday Night Football this week is a game between the Falcons at the 49ers. The 49ers obviously coming off of a loss to the Buccaneers. They lost Fred Warner for the season, who dislocated and fractured his ankle. All prayers go out to Fred Warner, one of my favorite guys to watch play linebacker. It's so sad to see this 49ers team just be derailed by injuries and everything, but the fact is that they still are playing great football. No matter who goes down, the next guy steps up and goes out there and plays as hard as he can. And this team's 4-2. The Falcons team obviously coming in playing great football here lately, and for that reason, I'm going with the Falcons. I just don't think that these injuries are going to be able to. These injuries are going to take its toll at some point. I think it starts here. Mainly the defense is struggling. You lose arguably your two best players. No, not even arguably. You lose your two best players for the season. Nick Bosa with his ACL a couple weeks ago, and now Fred Warner this past week against the Buccaneers. I just think the way that Falcons offense is playing, they're going to run all over them. The offense for the 49ers, you still have McCaffrey, who, it seems like for him, he could get injured and it would shock nobody, but he's still playing. He's playing great football now. I want him to keep that up. I love watching Christian McCaffrey play football. When will Brock Purdy come back? When will I think George Kittle's not too long away from coming back. It may be this week. I don't know for sure. But I don't think we're too far away from seeing him coming back. Ricky Pearsall will come back at some point. Juwan Jennings will come back at some point. The offense is going to be pretty good, I think, but it all just comes down to that defense, and I think that's what ends up costing them. So I'm going to take the Falcons coming into San Fran and getting a huge win of the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. But for Monday Night Football, we have two games. The first game being, I believe, at 7 p.m., and that game is between the Buccaneers at the Lions. This game is going to be very fun to watch. And the Lions, we talked about both teams actually already. The Buccaneers with Baker, 5-1. The Lions coming off the loss to Kansas City at 4-2. This game will be played in Detroit. I think the Lions get back on track with this one. I love the way Baker's and the Bucs are playing, but I just think that the Lions will probably have a sour taste in their mouth. They're going to be playing at home in front of a home crowd, and this is 100% going to be a tough game for both teams. But I see the Lions just barely squeaking out with a win here and getting back on track. Baker Mayfield is obviously just going to give him a fight. I can really say the whole thing that I just talked about him, why he's number one for MVP right now for me and everybody else. But I think that they're going to meet. This is a tough team that they're going to have to play. This is a Super Bowl contender type team in the Detroit Lions. And I think that they're just going to give them a rough time. And I fully expect the Lions, coming off of a loss like they'd had against the Chiefs, to get back on track and to beat the Buccaneers here on Monday Night Football. So I'm going to take the Lions getting the big win over the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. And then the second game, which I'm not even gonna lie, I'm not gonna be watching all this game. The Texans at the Seahawks. This game's gonna be played at 10 o'clock here, local time, Eastern time, I believe that's what time kickoff is. 7 o'clock local time in Seattle. Coming off of a bye week, coming off of a game where they whooped the Ravens, went to the bye week. Now they come off the bye week and they're going to be taking on the Seahawks. The Seahawks just got the win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 20-10, who've been playing good football here recently. And that's the reason I'm going with the Seahawks, because they're playing good football here recently. And mainly because Jackson Smith-Njigba might be the best wide receiver, or he's at least playing like he's playing like the best wide receiver in football right now. That connection with him and Sam Darnold is absolutely amazing, and it's proved me wrong with Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold is playing absolutely phenomenal with the Seahawks. And I think that this continues here with the Texans. The Texans are. I just don't think that this Texans team is as dangerous as it was seemingly a couple years ago, C.J. Stroud's rookie year. Um, Maybe if we can figure out to get Nico Collins the ball more, I think that maybe the Texans maybe give them a fight here in this game. The Seahawks, I just think, are going to take this game for sure against the Texans. I think they're going to get a good, feel-good win. I remember talking about, just popped in my head, talking about Stafford and going against the 49ers. Let's not even rule out the Seahawks here, as they are playing great football here recently. And I think, again, it continues against the Texans here on Monday Night Football. If they win this game, they go to 5-2, and the Seahawks are absolutely a team to be thinking about when it comes to winning the NFC West and hosting a playoff game. But yeah, that's my predictions for week 7. Let me know what you guys think down below with your predictions, and be sure to be on the lookout on the socials for game picks. Those include football games. I'll include some for baseball every now and then, especially when the World Series comes around. Um, but for sure, be sure to be following my Instagram, where you will see those in my story, and be following the other socials for all shorts posts, as well as hot takes and all the other stuff. So please, if you haven't already followed, go check in the link in the description below. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I really do appreciate it. This is a weekly podcast episodes that we drop weekly. If you are new, this is your first time watching, thank you for watching. And obviously this is the end, but we will continue to keep this train going weekly. So please come back same time next week for when we upload podcast numbers 9. But for now, that is it for me. Like I said, please go follow all the socials that will be listed down below. Please subscribe here, and please go interact with all the other things as I love to post them as time goes on. But thank you again for listening, and thank you for you guys for all the support that you've given me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.